So today I'll be talking about online education and the points for and against online education and traditional education. So now, firstly, let's start off with the basics. What is education, right? Education is a process in which knowledge, characters, and behavior of a human being are shaped and molded, right? Now that's a definition, right? But many different people have different views on what education really is. You can ask person A, they'll give you one definition, person B, another definition, whether student or teacher, right? But Aristotle, he was a philosopher who pioneered scientific examinations in pretty much every aspect of um, science back in the day, right? And he said that education is a natural, systematic, and progressive development of all the forces, and distinguishes a human from other creations, right? Now, why online education, right? There are many forms of education, and online education is one of the most well-known and popular versions of education, other than traditional education. Well, a few of the pros of online education is that no matter where you are in the world, whether you're in Australia or you're here in the UK, you can join in with the same meeting, and you don't need anything other than a PC or a device and an internet connection. Whereas if it was traditional education, you would have to fly yourself over from either of the countries, meet up, and that would be very costly, right? And not everyone can do that. Secondly, in this modern day and age, you need at least some type of computer skills. You need computer skills to do most jobs now, because most things are now digitalized, and a lot of things run depending on computers, right? And many technological advancements have been made, making jobs easier nowadays. Students, shy students. There are many shy students, right, who don't like to put their hand up in class and talk to their teacher, and that causes many kids to just not ask questions in the first place, which can slow down their learning from a very young age, right? So, but if it's online, just to tap, there is no one that's watching you, so you can just a tap away. You can just ask a question. And also, independence. Student independence is very important, because maybe not as much in the lower years in the primary education, but once you get to secondary and then sixth form and of course university, you will not be spoon-fed all the information and everything you need to do. You need to proactively think and do things by yourself. So online education will help you with that. Now, how much has the online education system grown since 2021? Well, as you can see on the slide behind me, you can see that it has grown quite a bit in the last few years. Specifically speaking, 233% in just 2021. And as you all know, the average increased interest in online education is due to a virus. Yeah, hopefully you've heard of it. COVID-19, it's been around for a few years, definitely affected most of our lives. Now the big question arises, right? Is online education better than traditional education? Right. Personally, I believe that online education is a much more advanced and adaptable way of students' education worldwide, for many reasons. But to list a few, it is very simple and can be achieved just by sitting at home whilst gaining knowledge, and is much less expensive. as less supplies are needed and no traveling costs, which is a big advantage due to the ongoing petrol crisis. Right? Nobody's trying to pay extra for petrol just to go to school. You could cut that out and just sit at home and without traveling. Right. And kids can't always attend lessons. They can get sick. They might have personal reasons that they can't go to school. In that case, they can't just call their teacher, and the teacher might not have time to come back and teach a kid all over again, as that is very time consuming, right? But in the case of online education, they can just record a meeting and just replay it, and no extra effort is needed. And that recording, if that's there, you can rewatch it and clear your doubts very easily. Right. Now, in conclusion, I believe that online education, not exactly just yet, but in a few months, maybe a few years, will take over traditional education, or maybe be able to similarly be popular to traditional education. Because traditional education is known by everyone, and if online education is taught and exposed to the wider population, I think it could do quite a bit. Thank you for time. Thank you for listening. That was me. Thank you. I'm just going to leave you guys with a quote from Imam Ghazali about education.
That was a really strong point that you made about well, very good. I like how you almost laid out the for and against what it's like everyone here. The first question I want to ask you, and I think I'm going to ask you this question and not anyone else that we watched today, that you take this question. But that is, I feel like you're trembling a bit now.
No, I'm all right.
Yeah, you're all right. But why did you, I think you were given an option to choose out of two topics, right?
Yes.
So there was one on pandemic, and online education. Why did you choose this
one? Because both of the former people who performed,
okay,
they both were they were very strong on the traditional side of education, and I just wanted to show that there are also sides in online education as well. Yeah.
Okay. You talked about shy students, basically.
Yes.
How do you know that shyness isn't something that also exists within online education? And whilst you're on Teams call or Zoom or something, how do you know? What are your thoughts about it?
Well, I have a few friends who usually don't like to put their hand up in class because they're really scared. They're not really scared, but they're afraid they might get it wrong. And if they get it wrong, it's not the best experience in the world. But if you go with them to the lesson in an online lesson, they will more freely ask because there's a private chat between teacher and themselves, so they can speak to the teacher one-on-one with nobody else watching. So my friend was happy to ask questions there.
And lastly, do you feel as though online education, being on video calls and things like that, is quite tiring, or more tiring than physically being in classroom?
I think it's pretty equal because, well, yeah, it's pretty equal because although you're not traveling, because traveling does take up a lot of energy, although you're not traveling, you are still studying, if you get what I mean. You're still learning, gaining knowledge, and that still takes a lot of energy. So I think energy consumption wise, I think they're pretty equal.
That's really interesting. I'm guessing you kind of sat on that class. yourself.
Yes,
Well.
I have. Last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I just want to kind of finish on one of my own facts that I've got for you actually. But this morning I actually heard on the radio there was a fact regarding psychologists that have looked into sort of sitting in online meetings, whether classroom, kind of in a classroom setting or work setting, and they spoke about how it's actually far more tiring to sit there because you have your face visible to you, and psychologically what that does is it makes you very self-critical whilst you're actually sitting in that meeting.
Yeah.
And that in itself is actually very tiring. So I think it's an interesting point to maybe be up for yourself and to maybe share that with people. Maybe you've got a good excuse to put the camera off in the next class.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you. Some strong points. So you are obviously in favor of online education. It's a good method of teaching. One of the things you mentioned, which I realized actually, is before you started speaking of online education, you mentioned there are many different forms of educating people.
Yeah.
One of them is online education.
Yes.
What are the forms of educating people?
For example, if for kids who can't hear, you can sign language. Then, for example, children suffering from ADHD and dyslexia, they can draw. Teachers can teach them with art, drawings, pictures, colors, like that. Those are also different types of education.
So on top of that, for people who has ADHD, autism, learning difficulties, do you not think it is better for that people to have direct interaction with the teacher rather than accessing online classes?
Well, there's only so much you can do with a pen and paper. Whereas if it's on a screen, you can show animations and different color choices. And there's much more visually, you can do much more on a screen and on a presentation than you can do on a piece of paper and pencil or colors, for example. So I think in that case, I believe that
So despite the fact that so for students who tend to have learning difficulties, they generally have a teaching assistant who supports them. And again, this is direct interaction with them. Whereas online, that might not necessarily be possible.
yeah, because usually they don't usually stay. They have their own classroom where there are many teachers who teach them. So specifically, like oriented education towards them. So I believe those teachers in the same specialized classroom can make a meeting for those kids in a Zoom meeting. Then I think it